In 1964, a single piece of paper changed the course of Hollywood history forever. Hidden away in the archives of Walt Disney Studios lies a letter, one that would transform a heartbroken Broadway star into the most beloved musical icon of all. Time. Julie Andrews had just suffered the most devastating rejection of her career, watching helplessly as the role that made her famous was given to someone else. Little did the world know, this crushing blow would lead to a chance encounter, a mysterious letter, and a decision that would save not just her career, but create a legacy that still enchants millions today. This is the untold story of how one man's faith in a broken dream became the miracle that gave us Mary Poppins. The year was 1956, and 19-year-old Julie Andrews stood on the stage of the Mark Hellinger Theater, her crystal-clear soprano voice soaring through "Wouldn't It Be Loverly?" Night after night, she breathed life into Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, transforming from a Cockney flower girl into a refined lady before the eyes of mesmerized audiences. Her performance was nothing short of magical, a perfect blend of vulnerability and strength that made hearts ache and spirits soar. For 8 years, Julie poured her soul into this role. She lived and breathed Eliza, understanding every nuance of the character's journey from poverty to nobility. The critics adored her, audiences worshipped her, and Broadway itself seemed to bend to her will. She was not just playing Eliza Doolittle. She had become her. The role was her identity, her calling card, her entire world. Behind the glamour of Broadway success, however, lay a young woman carrying the weight of extraordinary expectations. Julie had been performing since childhood, pushed into the spotlight by ambitious parents who saw her gift as a ticket to a better life. The pressure was immense, but she channeled it into perfection. Every note had to be flawless, every gesture precise. She was creating something timeless, though she didn't know it yet. As the years passed and My Fair Lady became a cultural phenomenon, whispers began circulating through the theater district. Hollywood was watching. The movie rights had been secured, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before Eliza Doolittle would grace the silver screen. For Julie, it seemed like destiny. After all, who else could possibly embody this character she had spent nearly a decade perfecting? But in the golden age of Hollywood, dreams and reality often traveled on very different paths. Little did Julie know that her greatest triumph was about to become her most crushing defeat, and that defeat would ironically pave the way for something far more extraordinary than she could have ever imagined. The call came on a crisp autumn morning in 1963. Julie Andrews sat in her modest New York apartment, her hands trembling as she held the telephone receiver. The voice on the other end belonged to her agent, but the words seemed to come from a stranger. Warner Brothers had made their decision about the film adaptation of My Fair Lady. The role of Eliza Doolittle, her role, would go to Audrey Hepburn. The silence that followed was deafening. 8 years of her life, thousands of performances, millions of hearts touched. All of it meant nothing to the Hollywood executives who valued box office appeal over artistic authenticity. Audrey Hepburn, they reasoned, was a movie star. Julie Andrews was just a Broadway actress. The irony was bitter. Hepburn couldn't even sing the role and would require extensive dubbing by Marni Nixon. As news of the casting decision leaked to the press, the entertainment world erupted in outrage. Broadway veterans were furious, critics were appalled, and fans felt betrayed. How could they replace the woman who had created the role, who had breathed life into Shaw's creation night after night? Even Audrey Hepburn herself reportedly felt uncomfortable about the decision, knowing she was stepping into shoes that rightfully belonged to someone else. Julie tried to maintain her composure in public, giving gracious interviews and wishing the production well, but privately she was devastated. The rejection felt personal, as if Hollywood had looked at her and found her wanting. She questioned everything: her talent, her appearance, her future. Was this the end of her career before it had truly begun? Would she be forever relegated to the theater, watching others bring her characters to the big screen? Friends and colleagues rallied around her, offering comfort and encouragement. But nothing could ease the pain of seeing her life's work dismissed so callously. The entertainment industry could be cruel, but this felt like a special kind of betrayal. Julie Andrews had given everything to My Fair Lady, and now she was being told it wasn't enough. The woman with the perfect voice found herself speechless, wondering if she would ever recover from this devastating blow to her heart and career. While Julie Andrews nursed her broken dreams in New York, 3,000 miles away in Burbank, California, a legendary figure was having his own crisis of faith. Walt Disney sat in his office, surrounded by sketches and storyboards for what would become his most ambitious live-action musical. Mary Poppins had been a passion project for years, but finding the right actress to bring P.L. Travers magical. Nanny to Life had proven nearly impossible. Disney was a perfectionist who understood that casting was everything. He had built an empire on the power of believing in magic, but this project felt different. Mary Poppins wasn't just a character, she was a cultural icon, a beloved figure who needed to embody both maternal warmth and otherworldly mystique. The wrong choice would destroy the entire film before it ever reached theaters. As fate would have it, Walt had been following the My Fair Lady controversy with great interest. Unlike the Warner Brothers executives, he saw something they had missed entirely. Here was a woman who had proven herself capable of carrying a major production for 8 years, whose voice could make angels weep, and who had just been publicly humiliated by the very industry she was trying to conquer. In that disappointment, Disney saw opportunity. What happened next would become the stuff of Hollywood legend. Disney reportedly turned to his associates and made a declaration that would change entertainment history. I want to meet this Julie Andrews. If she's good enough for Broadway's biggest hit, she might just be perfect for our Mary Poppins. It was a bold statement from a man known for taking calculated risks, but something about Julie's situation resonated with him on a deeper level. Disney understood rejection intimately. He had been told Mickey Mouse would never work, that adults wouldn't watch animated films, that Disneyland was a foolish dream. He recognized in Julie Andrews a kindred spirit, someone whose talent had been underestimated by an industry too focused on commercial formulas to recognize true magic when it stared them in the face. This recognition would soon lead to a meeting that would change both of their lives forever. The meeting was arranged in secrecy, away from the prying eyes of Hollywood gossip columnists. In late 1963, Julie Andrews found herself walking through the gates of Walt Disney Studios, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and skepticism. She had been burned before by Hollywood promises, and she wasn't sure she was ready to trust again. But something about Walt Disney's reputation for treating performers with respect gave her the courage to take this leap of faith. Disney himself greeted her at the studio entrance, a gesture that immediately set this encounter apart from her previous Hollywood experiences. He was warm, genuine, and seemed genuinely excited to meet her. As they walked through the lot, he spoke passionately about his vision for Mary Poppins, not just as a children's film, but as a celebration of the transformative power of imagination and joy. What Julie didn't know was that Disney had done his homework. He had attended a performance of My Fair Lady in Disguise, sitting in the back row and watching her command the stage with effortless grace. He had spoken with composers and directors who had worked with her, gathering intelligence about her professionalism, her work ethic, and her ability to handle the pressures of a major production. By the time they sat down to talk, he was already convinced she was his Mary Poppins. The conversation lasted for hours. Disney shared his vision for the character, his plans for the music, and his commitment to creating something truly special. Julie found herself opening up about her disappointment with My Fair Lady, her fears about transitioning to film, and her dreams of reaching audiences beyond Broadway. It was more than a business meeting. It was a connection between two artists who understood the power of believing in Magic Dot. As the day drew to a close, Disney made her an offer that would change her life forever. But more importantly, he made her a promise. If she trusted him with her career, he would trust her with his most precious project. It was a partnership built on mutual respect and shared dreams, the kind of collaboration that Hollywood rarely produces. Julie left the studio that day, feeling something she hadn't experienced since her rejection from My Fair Lady. Hope for the future. 3 days after their meeting, Julie Andrews received a package at her New York apartment. Inside was a handwritten letter from Walt Disney, written on his personal stationery. The letter itself has become one of Hollywood's most precious artifacts, though its contents were kept secret for decades. What we know now is that Disney didn't just offer her a role, he offered her a chance to make history. The letter began with words that still bring tears to those who have read it. My dear Julie, after our conversation, I am more convinced than ever that Mary Poppins has been waiting for you her entire life. Disney went on to describe his vision for the character, but more importantly, he addressed her fears about making the transition from stage to screen. He had seen her vulnerability, her uncertainty, and he wanted to reassure her that she was making the right choice. What made the letter truly extraordinary was Disney's promise to protect her throughout the filmmaking process. He understood that Julie was taking an enormous risk by leaving the security of Broadway for the uncertainty of Hollywood. He pledged to surround her with the best possible team, to give her the time and support she needed to create her performance, and to ensure that Mary Poppins would showcase her talents in ways that Broadway never could. The letter also revealed Disney's deeper motivations for the project. He spoke about his own children, about the importance of creating entertainment that could bring families together, and about his belief that Julie's combination of warmth and strength made her the perfect vessel for these themes. He saw in her not just a performer, but a collaborator who could help him create something timeless. Julie read the letter multiple times, each reading revealing new layers of meaning and intention. This wasn't just a job offer, it was an invitation to become part of something larger than herself. Disney's words gave her the confidence to take the biggest risk of her career, to leave behind the world she knew and embrace an uncertain but potentially magical future. The letter that saved her career was also the letter that gave the world one of its most beloved films. Julie Andrews' decision to accept Disney's offer sent shockwaves through both Broadway and Hollywood. Industry insiders were baffled. Why? Would an established Broadway star risk everything on an unproven children's film? The conventional wisdom of the time held that stage performers rarely succeeded in movies, especially in leading roles. Many predicted that Julie was making a career-ending mistake. The skepticism was particularly intense because Mary Poppins was such an unusual project. Disney was attempting something that had never been done before, a live-action musical that combined animation, groundbreaking special effects, and a story that appealed to both children and adults. The technical challenges were enormous, and there was no guarantee that audiences would embrace such an ambitious experiment. Julie was essentially betting her entire future on Walt Disney's ability to pull off a miracle. Her Broadway colleagues tried to talk her out of it. They reminded her of other stage stars who had failed in Hollywood, of the security and prestige she was giving up, of the risk of being typecast in children's films. Some were genuinely concerned for her welfare, while others seemed almost insulted that she would abandon the theater for what they saw as a lesser medium. The pressure was immense, but Julie had made up her mind. What sustained her during this period of doubt was her faith in Walt Disney and his vision. She had seen the passion in his eyes, felt the sincerity in his promises, and recognized in him a kindred spirit who understood the transformative power of performance. She also knew that staying safe on Broadway, while comfortable, would never give her the chance to reach the massive audiences that film could provide. This was her opportunity to touch millions of lives, and she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. The announcement of her casting generated mixed reactions from the press. Some critics praised Disney's willingness to take a chance on fresh talent, while others questioned whether a Broadway unknown could carry a major motion picture. Julie tried to ignore the noise and focus on preparation, but the pressure was unlike anything she had ever experienced. She was about to discover that the letter that saved her career had also launched her into the most challenging and rewarding adventure of her life. Production on Mary Poppins began in 1963, and from the first day on set, it was clear that this was no ordinary film. Walt Disney had assembled a team of the industry's most innovative craftspeople, from the Sherman Brothers' unforgettable songs to the groundbreaking special effects that would make Mary's magic believable on screen. But at the center of it all was Julie Andrews, carrying the weight of everyone's expectations on her shoulders. The technical challenges were staggering. Julie had to learn to work with animation that wouldn't be added until months later, to hit precise marks for special effects that existed only in Disney's imagination, and to maintain her performance energy through countless technical delays. She was essentially acting in a void, trusting that Disney's team could bring his vision to life in post-production. It required a level of faith and professionalism that impressed everyone on the set. Disney himself was a constant presence during filming, offering encouragement and guidance when Julie struggled with the transition from stage to screen. He understood that she was essentially learning a new craft while simultaneously carrying his most important project. His patience and support created an atmosphere of creative collaboration that allowed Julie to take risks and explore different aspects of Mary's character. The supporting cast, including Dick Van Dyke and the young actors playing the bank's children, quickly became a surrogate family for Julie. The long days and technical complexity of the production created bonds that would last a lifetime. Van Dyke later said that working with Julie was like watching a master class in professionalism and grace under pressure. She never complained, never lost her temper, and always found ways to make even the most difficult scenes enjoyable for everyone involved. As the months passed and the film took shape, Disney knew he had made the right choice. Julie's performance was exceeding even his highest expectations, bringing a depth and nuance to Mary Poppins that elevated the entire production. The letter that had convinced her to take this risk was proving to be one of the most important documents in Hollywood history, setting in motion events that would create a timeless masterpiece. If there was one element of Mary Poppins that everyone agreed would make or break the film, it was the music. The Sherman Brothers had crafted songs that were catchy, meaningful, and perfectly suited to the story, but everything depended on Julie's ability to bring them to life. Her voice, which had captivated Broadway audiences for years, would now need to work its magic on a much larger stage. Recording the songs for Mary Poppins was an entirely different challenge from performing them live. In the theater, Julie could feed off the energy of the audience, adjusting her performance based on their reactions. In the recording studio, she had to create that energy from within, delivering perfect takes that would work for audiences who wouldn't see the film for months. It required a level of technical precision and emotional control that few performers possess. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious became the ultimate test of Julie's ability to make the impossible seem effortless. The tone-twisting lyrics had to be delivered with crystal clarity while maintaining the playful spirit that made the song memorable. Take after take, Julie refined her performance until she achieved a version that was both technically flawless and emotionally engaging. The Sherman Brothers later said that hearing Julie sing their songs was like listening to their compositions come alive for the first time. But it was a spoonful of sugar that truly showcased Julie's genius for combining technical perfection with emotional truth. The song had to convey Mary's philosophy of finding joy in work while also advancing the plot and developing her character. Julie's performance balanced all of these elements seamlessly, creating a musical moment that was both entertaining and meaningful. Her voice seemed to float effortlessly through the complex melody, making it sound as natural as breathing. The recording sessions also revealed Julie's collaborative spirit and professional perfectionism. She worked closely with the musicians and sound engineers, always looking for ways to improve each take. Her Broadway experience had taught her that every detail mattered, and she brought that same level of dedication to the film. By the time recording was complete, everyone involved knew they had captured something special, a vocal performance that would define Julie Andrews for generations to come. The first time Walt Disney saw the completed Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sequence, he knew that his faith in Julie Andrews had been justified beyond his wildest dreams. Watching her command the screen with the same effortless grace she had brought to Broadway, surrounded by the magical world his team had created, Disney realized he wasn't just watching a performance, he was witnessing the birth of a cultural icon. The sequence itself was a technical marvel, combining live action, animation, and special effects in ways that had never been attempted before. But at its heart was Julie's ability to make the impossible seem believable. Her interactions with the animated characters felt natural and spontaneous, her performance never wavering despite the complex technical requirements. She had mastered the art of film acting while retaining all the charisma that had made her a Broadway star. Disney's excitement was infectious, spreading throughout the studio as word leaked about the extraordinary footage being produced. Executives who had initially been skeptical about casting an unknown Broadway performer began to realize they might have a genuine phenomenon on their hands. The early screenings for studio personnel generated reactions unlike anything Disney had seen before. Grown men were wiping away tears, and everyone left the theater humming the songs. The transformation of Julie Andrews from stage performer to movie star was complete, but it had happened gradually, almost imperceptibly. Each day of filming had added another layer to her screen presence. Each scene had revealed new depths to her interpretation of Mary Poppins. By the time principal photography wrapped, she had become the character so completely that it was impossible to imagine anyone else in the role. Disney knew he had witnessed something rare in Hollywood, the perfect marriage of performer and character, of talent and opportunity. The letter that had convinced Julie to take this enormous risk had not just saved her career, it had created a performance that would define family entertainment for decades to come. As he watched the final footage, Disney smiled, knowing that Mary Poppins would fly into the hearts of audiences worldwide, carrying Julie Andrews to heights she had never imagined possible. The first press screening of Mary Poppins took place on a warm August evening in 1964, just weeks before the film's scheduled release. The audience was filled with entertainment journalists, film critics, and industry insiders who had been following the production with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Many had come expecting to witness an expensive Disney experiment, perhaps charming, but ultimately forgettable. What they saw instead left them speechless. From the moment Julie Andrews appeared on screen, it was clear that something extraordinary was happening. Her opening scene, descending from the clouds with perfect poise and mysterious authority, immediately established her as a force of nature. The critics, many of whom had been prepared to dismiss her as just another Broadway performer trying to make it in movies, found themselves completely captivated by her screen presence. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times, one of the most influential critics of the era, was reportedly moved to tears during Feed the Birds. He later wrote that Julie's performance had a rare quality that combined technical perfection with genuine emotional depth. Other critics echoed similar sentiments, praising not just her voice, but her ability to convey the complex character of Mary Poppins. Stern yet loving, magical yet grounded, mysterious yet utterly trustworthy. The critical consensus was unprecedented for a Disney live-action film. Critics who typically dismissed family entertainment as lightweight found themselves praising Mary Poppins as sophisticated filmmaking. They recognized that Julie's performance elevated the entire production, turning what could have been simple children's story into something that spoke to audiences of all ages. The transformation was so complete that many critics admitted they had underestimated both Disney's vision and Julie's talent. Perhaps most remarkably, several critics who had initially questioned Julie's casting in My Fair Lady now admitted they had been wrong. They could see that her interpretation of Mary Poppins was so perfect, so definitive, that it justified every risk Disney had taken in casting her. The letter that had convinced her to leave Broadway had not just saved her career. It had vindicated Walt Disney's faith in the power of believing in talent over conventional wisdom. August 27, 1964, was a night that would be remembered in Hollywood history forever. The world premiere of Mary Poppins at Grauman's Chinese Theater was more than just a movie opening. It was a celebration of the magic that happens when talent, vision, and courage come together. Julie Andrews arrived at the theater in a stunning gown, but nothing could outshine the radiant confidence that emanated from her every gesture. The woman who had been rejected by Hollywood was about to conquer it completely. The red carpet was filled with celebrities, industry luminaries, and members of the press, all eager to witness what many predicted would be Disney's masterpiece. But the real stars of the evening were the families who had come to see if Mary Poppins could live up to the enormous expectations that had been building for months. Children clutched their parents' hands in excitement, while adults whispered about whether Julie Andrews could truly carry such an ambitious production dot. As the lights dimmed and the film began, the audience was transported into a world where anything was possible. From Mary's first appearance to the final moments of the Banks family's transformation, Julie's performance held everyone spellbound. Her voice soared through the theater's sound system. Her presence commanded the screen, and her interpretation of the beloved character exceeded even the highest expectations. The reaction during the film was unprecedented. Audiences applauded spontaneously during musical numbers, gasped at the special effects, and laughed delightedly at the comedy. But it was during Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious that the evening reached its crescendo. The entire theater erupted in applause that lasted for several minutes, forcing the projectionist to pause the film. Nothing like it had ever happened at a movie premiere. When the credits rolled, the audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted nearly 10 minutes. Julie Andrews, sitting in the theater's VIP section, was visibly moved by the response. Walt Disney, beaming with pride, knew that his gamble had paid off beyond his wildest dreams. The letter that had convinced Julie to take this risk had not just saved her career, it had created a cultural phenomenon that would influence entertainment for generations to come. The 1965 Academy Awards ceremony would prove to be one of the most emotionally charged evenings in Oscar history. Julie Andrews, nominated for Best Actress for her role as Mary Poppins, sat in the audience knowing that her entire future depended on the next few hours. The film had been a massive commercial and critical success, but the ultimate validation would come from her peers in the entertainment industry. The irony of the situation was not lost on anyone in the theater. While Julie had been deemed not right for the film version of My Fair Lady, Audrey Hepburn's performance in that very film had been largely dismissed by critics, who felt she lacked the vocal authenticity that the role demanded. Now Julie was nominated for an Academy Award, while Hepburn had been completely overlooked. The contrast was a powerful reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in Hollywood. When Rex Harrison opened the envelope and announced Julie Andrews for Mary Poppins, the entire auditorium exploded in applause. The ovation was so thunderous and sustained that it took several minutes for Julie to make her way to the stage. Her acceptance speech was gracious and heartfelt, thanking Walt Disney for believing in her and acknowledging the team that had made Mary Poppins possible. But everyone in the theater understood the deeper significance of this moment. It was complete vindication for a performer who had been unjustly overlooked. The Academy Award was just the beginning of an avalanche of recognition. Julie received Golden Globe, BAFTA, and numerous other awards for her performance, cementing her status as one of the most acclaimed performers of her generation. More importantly, the awards validated Walt Disney's decision to take a chance on an unknown Broadway star, proving that artistic vision could triumph over commercial calculation. In her backstage interviews, Julie repeatedly returned to the theme of gratitude to Disney for his faith in her, to the cast and crew for their support, and to audiences for their overwhelming response. She understood that the letter which had convinced her to leave Broadway had not just saved her career. It had launched her into the stratosphere of entertainment history. The woman who had been rejected by Hollywood was now its newest and brightest star. The success of Mary Poppins didn't just resurrect Julie Andrews' career. It fundamentally changed the landscape of family entertainment. The film proved that audiences were hungry for sophisticated musicals that could appeal to both children and adults, paving the way for a new generation of family films that prioritized quality over quick profits. Julie's performance became the gold standard against which all other musical performances would be measured. The cultural impact of Mary Poppins extended far beyond the box office. The character became a beloved icon, referenced and parodied countless times in popular culture. Julie's interpretation was so definitive that when P.L. Travers' books were adapted for the stage decades later, audiences expected the stage Mary to embody the same qualities that Julie had brought to the screen. Her performance had literally rewritten the character for future generations. More importantly, Julie's success opened doors for other Broadway performers to make the transition to film. Her triumph proved that stage experience was not a liability, but an asset, that the discipline and professionalism required for live performance could translate beautifully to the screen. Studios began actively seeking out Broadway talent, recognizing the depth and authenticity that theatrical training could bring to film roles. The technical innovations pioneered in Mary Poppins also influenced the entire film industry. The seamless integration of live action and animation, the sophisticated special effects, and the ambitious musical sequences set new standards for what family films could achieve. Disney's willingness to invest in cutting-edge technology to serve the story inspired other filmmakers to push the boundaries of what was possible in cinema. Perhaps most significantly, the letter that saved Julie Andrews' career demonstrated the power of believing in talent over conventional wisdom. Walt Disney's decision to look beyond box office calculations and trust his instincts about Julie's potential created not just a successful film, but a timeless masterpiece. Their collaboration proved that the best art often emerges when visionary creators are willing to take risks on behalf of exceptional performers. The success of Mary Poppins launched Julie Andrews into the stratosphere of international stardom, but it also set in motion a chain of events that would reshape her entire career. Within months of the film's release, she was being courted by every major studio in Hollywood, offered roles that would have been unimaginable just a year earlier. The woman who had been rejected for being unknown was now one of the most sought after. Performers in the industry got her next film, The Sound of Music, capitalized on the goodwill and recognition that Mary Poppins had generated. Director Robert Wise specifically sought her out because he had been so impressed by her performance as Mary Poppins. recognizing that she possessed a rare combination of vocal ability, acting talent, and screen presence. The role of Maria Vaughn. Trapp would cement her status as the definitive musical film star of her generation. The parallel between her two most famous roles is striking. Both Mary Poppins and Maria Von Trapp are characters who bring joy and transformation to the families they encounter. Julie's ability to embody these nurturing yet strong figures created a screen persona that resonated with audiences worldwide. She became associated with stories of hope, resilience, and the power of music to heal and transform lives. Beyond her own career, Julie's success inspired a new generation of performers to believe that Broadway and Hollywood could coexist successfully. Young actors and singers saw her trajectory from stage to screen stardom and began to envision similar paths for themselves. The artificial barriers between theatrical and film performance began to crumble, creating more opportunities for versatile performers across all media. The letter that had convinced Julie to take the role of Mary Poppins had also unknowingly launched one of the most beloved careers in entertainment history. Her subsequent success in The Sound of Music, her later work in television and film, and her eventual return to Broadway were all built on the foundation that Walt Disney had helped her create. The decision to trust his vision had transformed not just her life, but the lives of millions of people who would be touched by her performances over the decades to come. Today, nearly 60 years after that fateful letter changed the course of entertainment history, Julie Andrews remains one of the most beloved performers in the world. Her portrayal of Mary Poppins continues to enchant new generations of viewers, proving that true artistry transcends time and cultural change. The film has been preserved in the National Film Registry, recognized not just as entertainment, but as a significant cultural artifact that captures the power of imagination and the importance of family. The letter that saved her career has become legendary in Hollywood circles, though its exact contents remain largely private. What we know is that Walt Disney's words of encouragement and his promise of artistic collaboration convinced a heartbroken Broadway star to take the biggest risk of her life. That leap of faith created not just a successful film, but a cultural touchstone that continues to inspire performers and audiences alike. Julie herself has often spoken about the pivotal role that Disney's belief played in her career. In interviews, she has described that letter as the turning point that transformed her from a regional theater performer into an international icon. She credits Disney's vision and support with giving her the confidence to become the performer she was always meant to be, even when she couldn't see it herself. The story of how Mary Poppins came to be serves as a powerful reminder that the best art often emerges from the most unlikely circumstances. Julie's devastating rejection from My Fair Lady led directly to her perfect casting as Mary Poppins, proving that sometimes what feels like the end of a dream is actually the beginning of something far more wonderful. Her journey from heartbreak to triumph continues to inspire anyone who has ever faced rejection or doubt as we watch Mary Poppins float away with her parrot umbrella at the film's conclusion. We're reminded that magic happens when talented people are given the opportunity to create something meaningful. The letter that saved Julie Andrews' career did more than rescue one performer from obscurity. It gave the world a timeless story of hope, transformation, and the enduring power of believing in the impossible. The story of Julie Andrews and the letter that saved her career is more than just Hollywood history. It's a testament to the transformative power of believing in talent, even when others can't see it. Walt Disney's faith in a heartbroken Broadway star created one of cinema's most beloved characters and launched one of entertainment's most cherished careers. Their collaboration proved that the greatest magic happens when visionary creators are willing to take risks on behalf of exceptional performers. From the devastating rejection that nearly ended her film career before it began to the Academy Award, That validated her talent on the world's biggest stage. Julie's journey reminds us that our greatest disappointments often lead to our most extraordinary opportunities. The letter that convinced her to leave the security of Broadway for the uncertainty of the Hollywood didn't just save her career, it gave millions of people around the world a source of joy that continues to this day. As Mary Poppins herself might say, sometimes a spoonful of faith is all it takes to help the medicine go down. Walt Disney's letter provided exactly the encouragement Julie needed to spread her wings and fly, creating a legacy that will continue to inspire dreamers for generations to come. What do you think would have happened if Disney had never written that letter? How different would entertainment history be without Julie Andrews' iconic performance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories from Hollywood's golden age. Sometimes the most important moments in history happen because of a single decision, a moment of faith, or in this case, a letter that changed everything.